I'm gonna have to find out more about this later after I get done making this video. Apparently, I don't know for what reason, but 7 people were shot in Philadelphia today in one attack. Some elderly people were hit. I think the youngest was like 17, all the way up to elderly people at, I don't know, I guess a SEPTA bus stop. I gotta look at the details. I don't know what the details are, but anyway, let's get on with this video about the attacks on the Asian community, specifically out there in Oakland, California. Now, I have a lot to say about this because I've been looking at a number of videos. What's funny is all this came up right after I did my, addressing, the China and their issue with, masculinity and them trying to address and tackle that problem. I've had a number of black people come at me and tell me about how great Asians are, and so what if they're not masculine, and that's not important because they're doing well and all this other shit. I'm like, this is something that the Chinese government is addressing. They brought it up. They identified it as a problem. You know what I mean? Like, I swear, people don't know how to stay on topic. They don't know how to stay on task. They identified it as a problem. This is something that they saw as a deficit. Don't project whatever it is you perceive about black people to be our deficits onto other people. It's not as though the Chinese community is like, you know what our problem is? We don't have enough Asians attending university. Like, that's not their problem. The masculinity is their problem. And like I said, for China, being the totalitarian government that it is, it has ambitions, and it can't fulfill its ambitions of, ironically, conquering other Asians if they have weak, feckless, timid Asian men who ultimately are supposed to be their soldiers. So that's, primarily their area of concern. But how do they do that, and how do they balance that when they don't want to have assertive Asian men like Xi Jinping going around challenging his elders, challenging kung fu masters, challenging possibly state and government authority? They don't want that. Now, getting back to Oakland and this spat of violence against the Asian community, I got a number of problems with this. First off, let me start this video off by saying, where there is poverty, there is crime. I've seen so many of these news hit pieces. I saw one balanced news piece, and I'll talk about that in a second. But all these other mainstream news outlets that are talking about the attacks on the Asian community, right? And the majority of the attacks, right? We don't see who the racial makeup of the majority of the attacks, but one of the videos they talked about, there had been 2,800 incidences of this sort of, hate crimes against Asians. 8% of those were physical attacks. And due to the cameras, the videos being released that we've seen, I've seen the video of the Asian woman getting her purse snatched by 3 black men. I saw the video of the Yahya Muslim who pushed the Asian man on the ground, and I saw the other one where the guy ran up, and the guy's name seems like it's Southeast Asian, like he's got like a Vietnamese name or something like that, where he was pushed to the ground, and that Asian senior ended up dying. Okay, so he's getting charged with murder. And so because of this, there's this, what's going on in the black community and what's going on between the blacks and the Asians, and the media is playing it up. Right. And the only person that I've seen really highlight that point is in one of the clips, a man by the name of Eddie Zhang, who surprisingly went to prison for burglary and kidnapping. And now he's, I guess, some sort of political activist in the Chinatown Asian community, or at least he spoke, at this event. But he called it out. He called out the white supremacy and the anti-blackness that goes on and the anti-Asianness that goes on, and the media basically trying to, drive this, or furthering the wedge between the black community, because I'm one who believes that you can't divide that which is already divided, which is going to bring me into the conversation of China Mac, and I'm going to get to him in a second. But yeah, you can't divide that which is already divided. The black community and the Asian community have had issues that really boiled over, I'd say, during the 1990s, around, the early 90s. There was a black girl who got into a dispute with the Asian store clerk. I think it was over some change. They got into a physical altercation, and the Asian woman pulled a gun from behind the counter and blew her away. A lot of black people screamed foul. A lot of black people screamed, racism and anti-blackness coming from the Asian community. Now, if I go online right now, there's a handful of Asians, and majority of which are Asian females. If I go on YouTube right now and I type in Asian community anti-blackness, it's majority Asian women who are speaking on the anti-blackness that they know exists in the Asian community. There's plenty of videos. Ain't no videos from China Mac. But China Mac has taken it upon himself to, have a sit down with one particular black rapper in the Oakland area about these attacks, on Asians. Right now, what I find interesting about that is I haven't seen the same type of energy coming from China Mac, right? Who, wants to now address the black community. I haven't seen the same type of energy with him addressing any of the foul things that Asian people do to black people. Maybe not physically, not in terms of robbery and stuff like that, but I'm saying a lot of black people patronize Asian businesses, and there's a lot of disrespect that each and every black person in America knows about when dealing with and interacting with Asians, whether that's Asian people following you around the store or just a general air, of disrespect. I don't see any videos of China Mac talking about, the Koreans and how foul it is and how they monopolize the black hair supply beauty chain. Not that I'm a big advocate of weaves, and, I can dive into all the self-hatred and the issues that I have with even just the whole Eurocentric aspects of wearing weaves and Eurocentric or Asian textured hair and all that. But I'm saying ain't nobody calling that out. And if you really want to talk about, why China Mac shouldn't be using the N-word, there it is right there. And see, this is the problem with black folks. We're getting too damn familiar with other people from other communities, thinking that because they culturally identify with black people and they speak a little street and they speak a little hood lingo and everything, that they're down. At the end of the day, they're not going to go up against their people. So in all the time that, anti-blackness has been very prevalent in the Asian community, China Mac has been silent on that subject. From what I've seen, from the research that I've done, from all the videos that I pull up, I'm sitting there typing like crazy. China Mac, anti-blackness. China Mac, racism in the Asian community towards black people. None of that stuff comes up. All I get is a bunch of Asian women, who are calling it out. And if you really want to get the real truth from, about the anti-blackness that goes on in the Asian community, then you have to go to some of these Hafu people, that's what they call themselves, who are half European and half Asian, people like Euro-Asian Tiger, who, somebody put me on recently. I used to see his videos with that Kylo Ren mask that he wears all the time. But if he doesn't sound like Captain Solo, talking about a lot of the self-hatred, that goes on with like dark-skinned black men and light-skinned women and all that, being the byproduct of two self-hating, insecure people who play into these sort of stereotypes. Asian tiger, Euro-Asian Tiger. He went in on it. Just went in on it. And talked about the Asian women, because this is another thing. Asian women dating outside the group at 2 times the rate as Asian men. Well, what's up with that? And see, this also goes into what China Mac is trying to do. And I can understand, where he's coming from this aspect. Because if I was him, I would be sick and tired of it too, which is the same thing that China sees, right? Because, China Mac, he grew up in the hood. He grew up around black people. He went to jail. He went to prison for 10 years for whatever he did. You know what I mean? So the energy that he most likely picked up from his environment and being around, a lot of black people, or black people allowing China Mac to be around them, however it went. China Mac, he doesn't like the lack of response that comes from the Asian community when they are attacked. In other words, the Asian community, or Asian men specifically, have the same problem that educated lame black men have. Right, where this is why, China Mac, and we need to go and talk to the black community, and he goes out there and flies out to Oakland and wants to talk to the black community. There's a reason why he didn't go and talk to, but I must speak with Tavis Smiley about this issue of black men attacking, Asian elders and whatnot. And that's another thing, and I'm jumping around, but another thing is, what was I going to say about the young men attacking, these Asians in Chinatown? Oh, I remember. I think this is a Dusty problem. Now I understand addressing the street dudes, right? Because street dudes is supposed to run everything, in the streets. But, again, it kills me at how nobody cares about what goes on in the black community. And I understand the perspective of the Asian community, which is they just want the shit to stop. You know what I'm saying? There's no explanation as to why somebody is attacking, an elderly person, a person in their 80s, in their 90s. You know what I'm saying? I remember that happened, in New York. There was some guy beat up some elderly woman, and black people were pissed off about that, even when it happens at the hands of another black person. But I see this as a Dusty problem, because let's face it, right? It's not like, and this is part of my irritation with the whole thing, we must go and talk to the black community, China Mac on this bullshit. And I'm like, what gainfully employed black people are running around pushing over some damn Asians like that? Like what gainfully employed? Like, what do you think? A brother just, yeah, man, I just got off my shift as manager at Verizon, and now I'm gonna go into Chinatown and start pushing some Asians. Nah, the fact of the matter is, and I'm saying, it's California. Maybe the Asians were there before the black people got there. I don't know. I know that the white people burned them out of San Francisco in the 1880s. But anyway, I'm saying, so the Chinese people, when you look at a map of Chinatown and Oakland, it's smack dab in the middle of Oakland. Smack dab in the middle. Now, I don't know the area. I don't know what's around there. I know that Chinatown backs up against 880, which is whatever their highway. And, and it's got the three corners of the square are surrounded by neighborhoods that are not Chinatown, at least not by Google standards, not Chinatown. And so I don't know exactly where the hood is, but clearly these individuals are within, walking distance or short driving distance. You see? And the thing is like, when you look at San Francisco, right? And this is the part that pisses me off about even the way the media is trying to play, the blacks, they're attacking the Asians. Like, black people didn't come up with terms like Kung Flu. Real talk, outside of California, Asian people are not a part of black people's conversation. Hardly ever, besides the disrespect that we may deal with when we go into, get our Chinese food, or go in and go to a black beauty salon or something like that, or a beauty supply store, not a salon, a beauty supply store, and deal with whatever disrespect may ensue in environments like that. But Asian people are not on the forefront of black people's tongues, or conversation. Right. But, I looked at the area, and the area, is, obviously, Chinatown's in the middle, surrounded by, other neighborhoods. And I'm like, I've been hearing all this stuff about homelessness in San Francisco. Right. And going back to where there's poverty, there's crime. I imagine that black people, and all the two wonderful stimulus checks that we got of, what was it, $600, right? The two wonderful stimulus checks that we got in the whole year, of COVID. I'm sure that there's a lot of black people that are really, messed up in this situation, that are really getting desperate. And again, nobody cares. Nobody cares until it spills out of the black community. I hate to say it, and it's embarrassing, being a black man, it's embarrassing, the fact that, these are the same individuals that black people move away from. Why black people who have two nickels to rub together move to the white suburbs, because they don't want to deal with this. I mean, it's amazing how everybody runs around, screams black on black crime, just like with that Temple student. I just did a video not too long ago, right there, backed up against the hood, gentrified neighborhood. I'm like, you are surrounded by poverty. You know what I mean? This idea, Asians are being attacked because, they're Asians. No, they're being attacked because in Oakland, black people make up 23% of the population and Asians make up 15% of the population. And Asians got more money than black people. And black people who are already, prostrate on the floor in poverty before COVID-19 are really struggling. This shit is bound to happen. I'm not trying to make an excuse for it, but it's bound to happen. Why do you think so many people went out here and bought firearms for their safety and their protection? You know what I mean? But it's real irritating watching, the way that the news is playing this shit. There's 2,800 attacks on Asians. Like the vast majority are going to be black people. You know what I'm saying? I was watching some video of some white guy. I think he was in Canada. He was riding his bike and some person pulled their mask down and spat at him. Spit on him for being Asian. You see? And then we got to talk about something else, which is, and again, people don't care until it spills out and it goes into their community. But the mental health issues in the black community that rarely ever get addressed or talked about, even internally within the black community. The one clip that I saw, one of the black bodyguards, and I'm going to get into that in a second. He just said it point blank at the end of the video. He was like, the real issue is the lack of resources. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. We had last numbers I heard was like 14 million people out of work. You know what I mean? Black people have taken the hardest hit in terms of contracting and dying of COVID. And on top of that, just the situation of poverty, that we were already in. Not having businesses like in the Asian community. What I find interesting, I'm jumping around again. What I find interesting is even with the Asians, with you had this one woman, she wanted to get security for the community. She got $25,000 the first time, and then got another $50,000 when she set the mark higher for 50. So overall, you're talking $75,000 total for them to have, security. Like, that's the type of money that the Asian community is throwing around and just gets, lickety split. Right. And then they go and they hire a bunch of black security guards. Right. Which it's kind of like, I'm like scratching my head at that. You're right. And in one breath, you could look at it like, well, see, this is because the Asian community recognizes that not all black people are bad. That's one aspect you could look at it from. The other aspect, you could look at it from is the standpoint of like, isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how when you get black people that are now working in the Asian community, right, you have less crime. Now, arguably, people can say, oh, that's because they're security guards. But I'm saying, like, it's like there's a beauty supply store there's a beauty supply store that I know of, and Koreans run the store, and ain't nothing but black women that work in that store, in the beauty supply store. Ain't nothing but black women in there, and I'm like, oh, very, very smart, right? I'm like, very clever, yeah, because it's like, yeah, instead of people, in other words, when black people walk in there, they don't just see a bunch of Asians vacuuming money, out of the community. Now, the Chinatown situation is a very unique situation because these black men are going into Chinatown to rob or whatever. They're going into Chinatown. So that changes the dynamics a little bit. You're going into somebody else's, territory. But Again, going back to what I was saying about the whole mental health issue, there's a lot of, undiagnosed mental health in the black community. I was reading some statistic not too long ago, 1 in 4 of the people that get shot by police have severe mental health issues. And we all know all about, black men getting shot by police, and we've all seen the videos, they call it's called a welfare check. That's basically when somebody is having an episode. They could be having a manic episode. They could be having a schizophrenic episode. They could be having an episode. Maybe they didn't take their medication, or maybe they're not complying with their medication, or maybe, they couldn't afford their medication. So, now they're going into, a psychosis. And cops come, and the next thing you know, there's cops. Oh, we so scared. We in fear for our life. I had to put 15 rounds in him, because he lunged at me, right? When the person really needs, a social worker, and they need, assistance and all that stuff. But again, nobody cares about it until it spills out of the community. There's a lot of functionally disabled people in the black community, people with bipolar disorder. You remember that woman that was on the bus, Soldier Girl? You know what I mean? Yeah, bitch, yeah, right? And what was her issue? I think she was bipolar. She had bipolar disorder, and mental health issue. And a lot of the issues that even black people have is when we see black people with mental health issues, it's because they're evil, or it's because, especially if it's a non-black person that gets, hurt or harmed in the process. Oh, it's because they targeted them, right? Black people never get the benefit of the doubt. It's never some, it's like when white people, they go on a mass shooting, and then it'll be, he was mentally disturbed. He had mental health issues. The issue is mental health, right? That's what they'll be saying when some white boy goes and shoots up, the school or whatever. But you have a situation where you'll have, a black person that, and again, I've seen it. You got a single mother. She's in a situation, doesn't have a whole bunch of money. She's got a grown son, right? So the son is grown. So when you look at him, you see the grown ass man. But his mind could be the mind, of a 13-year-old. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, there's all type of stuff that goes on with those individuals. The teasing, the bullying, people running around treating them like Animal Thug from Noriega, if you don't remember that. And that goes on, and I'm telling you, it's a whole bunch of reasons. Like, those weren't, those 2 attacks that we saw with the pushing, that has nothing to do with a robbery. There's nothing to do with a robbery. There's no black people sitting around co-signing, pushing over 80 and 90-year-old people. We're like, yo, that's out of pocket. You're not even going to get street respect or street cred when it comes to that. But it's kind of silly. We're trying to make like, we need to address, the black community. In terms of the robberies, yeah, I can understand that. I can understand the robbery, right? Because, you're targeting a group of people, and China Mac just wants it to stop. But in terms of the other things like mental illness and whatnot, there's no conversation that can be had, with people that are not getting their medications or mentally disturbed. I'm not saying that none of these instances can be black people attacking Asians because, they buy into the idea that, Asians are the reason why they lost their job, because of COVID, and have the exact same mentality that you see with a lot of white folks. There was one a black guy, I don't know, he was in a store or a restaurant, and he went on a racist tirade and a spat, talking about Asians and the virus and everything else like that. There are black people that are like that, but it ain't many. What I see when I see these, situations in Oakland is I see mentally disturbed, and I see crimes of opportunity, economic crimes. Everybody loves to brag, just like I said with white folk. Everybody loves to brag. Oh, we doing better than black people. We got it like that. We got money. We got money. You know what I'm saying? We got it like that. And I'm like, and it's the middle of a global pandemic, and you surrounded by black neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you need to be vigilant. Now what I find funny is because they just had an incident the other day where a Chinese man, he had a gun and the woman was getting robbed and he ran out on the street and started shooting in their direction. I hope he was using two hands. I hope he was not shooting like what I saw with those Koreans, in front of the store in 1992, with the guy, the guy that was walking around with the Beretta, and shooting with his arm, like as though the 9mm has such ferocious recoil that his arm has to go up in the air every time he fires the 9mm. That motherfucker was killing me, man. I mean, just killing me. But anyway, I'm saying I hope that's not what he was doing. But anyway, he got arrested. And the irony is when black people talk about, we have our internal conversations about fixing the black community and everything and whatnot. And I'm like, see, that's the type of stuff that I'm talking about. You know what I mean? You trying to protect your community. I don't think he should have been arrested. I don't think that Chinese store owner should have been arrested for shooting at black folks. Now, I had a discussion with Captain Solo. Captain Solo's position is a little bit different. He's never going to advocate for other groups of people, to, arm up or exercise their Second Amendment rights, against black people. But what him and I do agree on is, you know what I mean? If you get fucked up, you know what I mean? And by some Asians, it's like, well, where were you at? Oh man, we was in Chinatown. Well, what were you doing in Chinatown? You know what I'm saying? See, once you dive into the you and they neighborhood and you trying to do some stupid stuff, I'm like, oh, well, again, that's mutual combat. You know what I'm saying? You got what's coming to you. We just had an incident in Philadelphia where somebody tried to carjack somebody else, and the person being carjacked turned the tables, and they shot the carjacker twice in the head. And now the news was like, and they're fighting for their life. I'm like, that's mutual combat. I don't feel bad for that person. I mean, what if the carjacker shot the car owner twice in the head? You know what I'm saying? Like, well, I don't know why the media does that. It does this sympathy for the criminal, the sympathy for the perpetrator. You know what I mean? And with black people, yeah, we do understand that there is, that there's a struggle that black people go through. You know what I mean? Like, we understand human nature, but hunger is not going to wait for assimilation. Hunger is not going to wait for an opportunity. People are going to go out there and take what they need in their moment of need. That is what happens, especially when you don't have, a support system and a long-standing history of every way in which black people have been shafted from not getting reparations from slavery, because the Asian community in San Francisco, the Chinatown, they got reparations for Chinatown in San Francisco being burned down. You know what I'm saying? But African Americans, no reparations for slavery, eminent domain, urban renewal, redlining, blockbusting, denial of FHA loans, the dumping of drugs in the black community, mass incarceration, job discrimination. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So black people understand that. But at the same time, we still understand or comprehend the fact that, like, look, I don't expect anybody else to just lay down. I don't expect that at all. So if you in Chinatown and the Chinese people go after you and they beat you down or do whatever, like, I don't really have a whole bunch of sympathy for you. Like, well, what was you doing in Chinatown? Seems to me you was doing something wrong. I felt the same way with the black men that were doing at the beginning of the pandemic that were going into Cicero, and the black people, they was online. Oh, and the Mexicans, and they attacking us, and this, that, and the third, and everything. I'm like, what were you doing in Cicero? You know what I'm saying? I saw the guy, he jumped up at the GameStop and started smashing the glass. And the Mexican, he was as nice as he could have been. He was like, hey, man, get out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? Don't make us do what we need, what we got to do. And he hopped in the car and ran away. Like, those are the roaches, man. Like, I don't know what people don't understand about that. That is not your black people gainfully employed. That's not even your gangsters and your street hustlers. There's some dusty stuff. Even the gangsters in the streets, they too busy moving weight, flipping fentanyl. There's way more money in fentanyl than going out here trying to snatch grandma's purse. So it's like, sometimes I'm like, are people even addressing the right crowd? But I understand people don't care. They don't care about that. The Asian community doesn't care about what black people got going on, what the plight is of black people. Y'all just need to stop fucking with us. You know what I mean? That's how they look at it, right? And I can understand that. Now, China Mac and him addressing, the rapper and trying to, we need to have a discussion with the black community. There's a couple things that they like. First off, how the hell, because China Mac, he came on that show about the whole thing with the, ain't nobody going to smack me, for using the word nigga and all this other stuff. And I'm like, how do you get black goons, man? Like, how the hell do you get two black goons and then have them take your side? Right? Like, I just don't understand it. Imagine me trying to go and trying to, I got issues with the Asian community, and I bring Bolo from I think that's what his name is, from Bloodsport. I bring him, as my bodyguard. Speaks Mandarin or Cantonese or whatever. I'm like the optics on that is just retarded. You know what I mean? And then with this woman going and getting the black bodyguards, right? Or the security for the Chinatown, they walking around strapped and all that stuff. I'm just sitting there and I'm like, how does this go? How does this play out? How does this play out? And then not only that, it does look bad for black people. Like if you compare this whole situation, with what happened to the sister in New York in the liquor store. You know what I'm saying? Like where are the community patrols at? Where's our $25,000, $50,000 that somebody made a GoFundMe on GoFundMe and all of a sudden the money's coming in and then we can build up our black communities and our businesses and make quote unquote safe spaces, right? So there's an embarrassment, on our part, right? But there's also an embarrassment on the Asian part, right? Because, right, I know what China Mac is trying to do. You see it in all his interviews. He interviewing with Vlad, and he does not like the fact that Chinese men, Asian men, period, got, these kind of, these punk ass reputations. Can't stand that shit. I saw another video where they had some Laotians. This Laotian was walking around. He was protecting the community, right? So now all the Asians are coming together, even though the Asians don't really bang with each other. I was in Chinatown in Philly one time, and I think it was the Laotians and the Vietnamese. I could be wrong, but it was the Southeast Asians versus the Chinese, because I was in Chinatown, and they were fighting in the streets, man. I was like, look at this shit. I'm like Asian on Asian violence. And you know what's funny? I'm going to say this, right? Because I was looking for clips, and I found a clip of this black woman in Brooklyn, and she got in trouble. They were saying that what she said was racist. And she said something with what they were doing with the educational system was going to affect, black. She said, black, something about blacks and white people and yellow people. And man, the Asian people went crazy. And all I got to say about that is this. I did not know that yellow, that's not something that I would say, but I'm saying I didn't know that yellow y'all took offense to like that. I mean, real talk, which, is funny because this also further highlights, how black people have let other groups get too comfortable with the N-word. And running around calling people niggas and all other type of, nigga, my nigga, all that stuff. But as you can see, the Asians, they don't play that. They don't want any term to be thrown at them other than Asian. But I am like, come on. I'm like, you got to admit this is kind of ridiculous, right? So let me get this right. So Caucasians, they can be white. African Americans, they can be black, right? Indians, they can be brown, right? But Asians, oh my God, dare you call them yellow? It is a damn problem. I'm like, really? So everybody else got a color except for y'all. I just wanted to throw that in this video because I was like, this is ridiculous. But anyway, I'm saying, how does it look bad for Asians? I'm like, here's my thing, right? I'm like, where is the Hua Ching? Where are the Asian boys? Where are the Gray Ghosts? Where are the Red Dragons? I don't even know if the Red Dragons are even still around. Okay, where are they at? In terms of, because China Mac, he wants to, change, the reputation, of Asian men as being timid and fighting back and protecting their community and their women and everything. Mind you, Asian women are what? Marrying outside the race at 2-1. And I'm like, here you got this Asian woman, who went and she got some black bodyguards. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, it's not a good look. Not if you're trying to up your masculinity. In other words, what it looks like is you don't handle your own problems. Just saying. In terms of optics. It looks like you don't handle your own problems. You go and you got to get somebody else to handle your shit. Now, maybe some people think, well, if you got to catch a wolf, you got to go and get a wolf. But on the same note, it doesn't make black men look like much of anything, because it's just like, so you're not going to protect your own community. But if somebody goes off who's not black and pays you, they can basically pay you to do whatever they want you to do. Right? Now, again, there is some, solidarity in all of this, because again, I don't buy this idea that with the media is trying to perpetuate that black people are signing off, or that there's some sort of, let's go get the Asians, or let's go attack the Asians. That's bullshit. Just total bullshit. Again, economic crimes of opportunity are not hate crimes. They're economic crimes. And there's been a long-standing economic disparity between the Asian community and the black community. That has been existed. Asians have been the model minorities, as they love to say, and then use Asian people against black. Why can't you be like them? But then you got articles like Ghost of White People Past, where when the Asians are excelling, the white people, once they become a minority, they're feeling some type of way. And once the Asian kids are outperforming the white kids on SATs and other exams, they're feeling some type of way, and they got to move out. It's not like Asians are running around having drive-by, Chinese throwing stars. Like you walk out to your car one morning and you're like, God damn it. And there's like 3 Chinese stars stuck in your side of your door. Like that's not what's going on. The other thing, it's like, here's another area where, I'm like, China Mac, I'm sorry, but it's not looking good. It's like, you really want to highlight the fact that martial arts is some bullshit? You mean to tell me that this is going on in Chinatown and we got no kung fu masters? We got nobody who knows the technique of Shaolin? Just nobody? You know what I'm saying? I'm saying this is somebody who took martial arts for several years. But I'm just like, God damn, just show how ineffective martial arts are. If Zhu Xiaodong isn't doing it, God damn. Just nobody. That's just wild to me. So I'm like, so a bunch of blacks, you gotta get a bunch of big, muscle-bound black guys to basically, handle, your business. Again, I'm just saying this. It's not a very masculine position, even though you can say, well, we're the ones throwing the money around. Yeah, okay, you're the ones throwing the money around, but you're still seen as, not physically intimidating, which is, again, the very issue that China Mac has a problem with. But like I said, I think all this, China Mac, I'm down, I'm hood, I'm this, I'm that, da-da-da-da-da. Again, he already stated, you know what I'm saying? Because his father was a member of the Grey Ghost. He already stated that, if you're not Chinese, you ain't getting in no Chinese gang. You know what I'm saying? They keep their shit straight. Black men, on the other hand, street dudes in particular, okay, y'all be running around here like, that's another thing. Oh, the baby, or who was it, Little Baby or the baby, he was doing a video down there in Atlanta, and it was like, oh, nigga, you gotta check in. China Mac ain't had to check in. That motherfucker just said, yeah, I'm gonna fly to Oakland and I'm gonna meet up with a black rapper and we're gonna have a discussion about what's going on in the black community and the Asian community. We're gonna have a discussion about that. Like, he's giving y'all an ultimatum. Because at the end of the day, he don't care how none of this shit is going down. He just wants it to stop. He don't care about the details. He don't care about, I mean, just nothing. None of the criteria, nothing. He don't care about none of that stuff. You know, and this is why, like, you know, China Mac, to me, I'm like, nigga, you suspect, yo. You real suspect. You know, because, you know, it's like, again, where seriously speaking, like, where is the energy, man? I mean, if you really want to have an honest dialogue, and his dialogue, it doesn't come off as honest to me. You know what I mean? It's just like when we talked about the, you know, you got, you know, it's like you got Asian people. They jump up and they talk about how, oh, it's because remember this from a couple months ago? Oh, the reason I didn't get into Harvard or Yale is because of black people and affirmative action. I'm like, black people are the only reason that you were able to get into Yale or Harvard due to the Civil Rights Movement ending the 1924 Chinese Exclusion Act. You know what I'm saying? But you just want to ignore that. Black people don't even get so much as a thank you. The ones for black people ended segregation in schools. Right? Asian people couldn't go to these universities and these schools, you know, prior to the Brown versus Board of Education. You know, and it's like what you know, oh, we're being denied because of black people. I'm like, what HBCU did you apply to and get denied from? Oh, but that's right, you know, yeah, I don't want to go to HBCU, you know, because they got inferior education, and, you know, it doesn't have the same prestige as, you know, those white universities that we want to go to so bad, you know. So some black person got in because they had lower scores than me, and I should have got that seat, you know. So, you know, there's a lot of sideways shit, you know, that comes out of Asian people's mouths and whatnot. And so, like, when Asian people act like, you know, black people's issues with Asian Americans just comes out of nowhere, it just comes out of left field, that's bullshit. Now, how much of that plays into these attacks that we're seeing? I don't know. It might be, you know, to a slight degree. It might be has some guy who's pissed off. You know what I mean? What's funny is you know, I don't know if y'all remember the YouTuber with the Asian guy that was down there. What was it, in Arizona? And he was like, yeah, this is a nigger free zone or some shit like that. Y'all remember that? I don't know what type of Asian that dude was, but I'm pretty sure he was Asian. You know, and it's like, and it's shit like that. It's like, damn, you know, and see, you know, if that was most of these clips, right, you know, people getting attacked, and I'm not saying that the elderly people were doing this, but I'm saying, again, a lot of Asian people get passes on the idea that they don't do or say anything that's out of pocket. Now, I'm not justifying what happened. I'm just saying sometimes y'all can do and say some foul shit, and then when there's a response or there's a reaction, you know what I mean? You'll be like, oh, he was attacked. Like don't sit up in here and try to pretend like ain't no Asians ever call black people niggers. Don't sit up in here and try to pretend like that shit doesn't fly out of Asian people's mouths. Again, all I got to do is pull up and go on YouTube and type in anti-blackness in the Asian community, and a slew of videos come up. They know it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just some people who are more honest to actually speak on it. Right? But like I said, I look at the main issue. We're in the middle of COVID. A lot of people are out of work. Black people are disproportionately poor. Asians are seen as being disproportionately wealthy. Right? And again, everybody loves that when it comes to, you know, we're the ideal model minority and all that other stuff. But again, when you're surrounded by poor people, this is what comes with it. And you know, unfortunately, and, you know, the mental health issue, right? So as I say, mental health. Yeah. So the mental health issue and this whole, the economic issue. I'm like, Oakland, I don't know anything about Oakland, really. You know what I mean? But everything that I've ever heard about Oakland is it's not the greatest area to live. And, you know, a lot of black people are in the struggle, you know, and in the streets. and there's shootings and all this other stuff. I got an app on my phone. If I just type in Oakland and change my address and say that I'm in Oakland and all the news comes up, I'm gonna get a whole bunch of homicides, and the majority of that will be black on black. It's not gonna be black on Asian. This is almost like the way that women run around and they're like, oh my God, there's an epidemic of violence against women. And I'm like, the majority of violence is male on male. Women being the victims of violence is a drop in the bucket. But they always up there bitching and acting like, oh, the sky is falling because, some women happen to get, assaulted. Or some act of violence is committed against a woman, but everybody just accepts the fact that, men are violent with other men. Everybody just accepts that black on black violence happens. But then somehow when black on black violence spills into other communities, then all of a sudden we were specifically targeted because we're not black. I'm like, that's dumb. That's not even remotely accurate. But yet people, they push this idea. So, there's a lot of, it's a very unique situation that's going on here. And there's a lot of, you got Asian men like China Mac trying to reclaim Asian male masculinity. You have the whole situation with COVID and the poverty that's long existed. You got the tensions between the Asian community and the black community that have been there. All you got to do, you could go on YouTube right now and pull up clips from 1992 of the LA riots, right? I think they happened in 92. Pull up clips of 1992 LA riots and the newsreels of Asian businesses being attacked and looted and whatnot. And when they get to black people and they start interviewing black people, there's a couple of them. They really lay this shit out. They're like, man, there's always been tension, because again, due to the economics, due to the disrespect, as my one Pakistani friend likes to tell me, a lot of Asians have adopted racism. Where they try to get a pat on the head from, white supremacy. They feel like, that to be an American is to shit on black people the same way that white people shit on. And that creates a lot of tension. That makes the situation a little bit more to where, somebody just might, put hands on you. But see, Asians, they want to act like, none of that is in the background. There's no noise with that. But overall, again, I can't, condone anybody attacking, Asian elderly people, especially when you see it's not even a robbery. It's like, okay, what's going on with that person? Because that's not normal behavior to see an 80, 90-year-old person and push them down and whatnot. And I guarantee you start looking in the background, you're going to find, that they got mental health issues and all that type of stuff. Because that's what you're going to see doing. Not gainfully employed. That's what you're going to see. You're not even going to see gang affiliating because, again, like I said, there's no respect for that. There's no respect for that in the black community. There's no respect for that in whether you're doing it against, the Asian community or the white community. Nobody's going to give you props for knocking over a 90-year-old person. That's not mutual combat. Plain and simple. Now, it seems like the Asian community is taking the necessary precautions. They were buying guns massively at the beginning of COVID, but, that's a whole nother thing, about even self-defense. And like, I read one of these articles and, they were talking about, with the Asian guy that, and I put it on my community tab, but they talked about the guy who owned the store and, was shooting, at the people that were trying to rob this, this lady. And they were like, well, we don't want guns and violence is not the answer. And, they're coming with all that. And I'm like, oh, man, it sounds just like the black community. Everybody wants to co-sign gun control until they actually need a gun. All the liberal people and, oh, we're liberal and, and then again, then when these situations arise, then, okay, you got to fork up the money to go and get, security. I'm still amazed. I'm like, you got black body security guards. You couldn't get no Asian security guards. Like, what is it? No Asian security company? Like that, you get like, I'm sorry, but China Mac can say what he wants. I'm like, you got to admit that looks kind of weak. If masculinity is your goal, that looks kind of weak. I expected to see a bunch of Asian men standing out there with aviator glasses and earpieces and shit. That's what I expected. A bunch of people looking out there, standing out there in suits like the Yakuza. But again, what are they gonna do with no real protection, firearms or whatever, and just a bunch of walkie-talkies? I don't know. I think that these folks. I mean, I don't understand people that, like, how long do you think you can get away with that? Like, how long do you think you can go into a community? They're on high alert. How do you think you're gonna go in there and then just continue to get away with the shit? Like, people gotta be pretty damn desperate. Especially for those that are doing the thieving and whatnot. They gotta be pretty damn desperate. But I already know that there will be no resolution, to this. There's an Asian community is not going to break bread with the black community. That guy, the Chinatown Chamber of Commerce is saying, well, what can we do to invest in the black community and help create or facilitate businesses in the black community so that they stop coming in here? That is not going to happen. It's just not. All they're concerned about is that we stop fucking with them. That's the approach, and I don't know how that's going to play out. China Mac, he playing nice, but I don't know how that's going to play out, and I know what a lot of people are trying to prevent. They're trying to prevent there from being, this sort of, racial war, kicking off, because, this tribalism is deep and everybody's going to pick their side, and, some black guys going to go in there, or maybe some young Asian teens, they go and they randomly beat up some 15-year-old black kid because they think he's about to do something when he's really not even involved. You know what I'm saying? Again, and you know how people do. They like to go in there and deal with the situation with a sledgehammer as opposed to going in there with a scalpel. And then that's when shit gets messy, right? So you'll end up with some 15-year-old black kid or girl that gets assaulted. And then the black community is going to be like, yeah, we hear you that, yeah, this motherfucker's coming in there robbing and shit, man. But this was uncalled for. And then you're going to have a bunch of, gangsters riding around just like they were in Cicero. And you're going to have that whole back and forth where then you're going to see the shit kick off in some real tensions. And to be quite honest, I don't think the Chinese community is ready for that. You know what I mean? Again, y'all don't have a reputation. And which reinforces why that Chinese girl went off and got black security guards. I'm like, why would you get black security? Why wouldn't you get Asian security? What, you don't got men in your community? You see, like, again, it's a bad look on both sides. It's a bad look on both sides, because I haven't seen any black security, in the black community protecting black businesses, that do it. I haven't seen that. I'm like, damn. So, like, I don't know what them Asian people are paying. But it's kind of ironic. We talk about the jobs, lack of jobs and opportunities and everything, and then all of a sudden they start hiring people, and then now they're no longer targets. Right? I saw one comment where one person felt like, well, that sounds like a ransom to me. And as soon as you stop paying those black security guards, then all of a sudden the crime's going to jump up again. So they got you by the balls. It's extortion. When I don't think it's that complicated, but I do understand the sentiment. Right? I do understand at least where they're coming from that angle. I'm like, okay, if we want to play, wizard chess, then yeah, okay. But it's just there's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here. Now, I think that, as usual, when things get better, if things get better, the economy gets better, you'll see less of this. But as the pandemic, like, people are not realizing, like, a lot of people, man, when it comes to savings, they're tapped out. They are completely tapped out. The pandemic started last January. last January. People didn't even get on to the pandemic until about late March, April. We are now in February. And the way things are looking, this pandemic and everything being shut down and everything, it's going to go on for the next year or more, with people still being out of work. Now, again, you think a year is not bad enough? Imagine 2 years or 3 years of this bullshit. And then you'll figure out why you got so many people out here buying guns. That's just the reality. I hate the way that it plays out. Because other than like the white community with like racial attacks and stuff like that, you don't see anybody really attacking the black community, not physically. But you do see black people attacking other groups of people. Why? Again, I argue the poverty. Where there is poverty, there is crime. Plain and simple. Where you have a group of people that are disproportionately poor and you have a people right next to them that have, somebody is going to try it. Somebody's going to try it. The idea that you just going to sit there and, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, you just going to sit there and count money in their face while they over there starving. The idea that you just going to be able to do that is a silly idea. But there's people who think it. Do the right thing, Negro. Hold on, let me lick my finger and count 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. Do the right thing. Robbing somebody would be a crime. I'm like, okay. And I'm saying, China Mac already know the streets don't even operate like that. Do the right thing. You know what I mean? Like he should be totally more aware. But what he's trying to do is he's trying to leverage the whole hip hop situation and the clout that he has in the hip hop situation, which is another area that irritates me, because it's like, okay, so let me get this right. So some street dudes are going to sit down with China Mac. He don't got to check in. They're going to sit down and have a conversation with China Mac. But like, when's the last time some ELs and some street dudes sat down and tried to have a conversation about some problem internally within the black community that needs to be addressed? You know what I'm saying? Like underage girls getting molested, right? Shit like that. Like where are we able to have a sit down like that? But because China Mac, he got street clout, street niggas are just going to oblige? Do y'all not realize how foolish you look? You know what I mean? Y'all, again, it's like when Boosie was sitting down talking to Mike Tyson, man. Like y'all tone be real different when you get to sitting around and talking to these other groups, man. I'm gonna be real about that. Y'all be changing y'all tone. Y'all ain't got no respect for no goddamn lames. We ain't fucking with these bitch ass niggas, these fucking lames. Nigga, know your place. We're in the streets, my nigga. All that shit. And then when y'all sit down with the Asian gangster who came with his black goons, fucking shaking my head. When y'all sit down with the Asian gangster, then it's all, well, China Mac, there's only one race, and that's the human race. I'm like, really? But lames, like, your own people. And then that's the crazy thing, because China Mac is standing right in front of you, talking about, that lady that got pushed down. That could be my grandmother. That could be my grandfather. He's telling you, I'm not going up against, despite me being immersed in black culture, I'm not going up against my people for you. He's literally telling you that in your face. And you got black people sitting around, they don't get it. They, China Mac is down, he spit them hot bars. So, we're going to sit down and have a talk, street dude to street dude. Sometimes I don't understand how you street niggas get any respect, man. I don't understand that shit. I don't understand how everybody, like, it's like what Cap said when he saw I sent him the video clip of those white people in Scranton that were shooting at each other, neighbors that blew each other. The guy blew his neighbors away and then went and killed himself. when Cap saw the clip, and I was like, yo, I'm totally blown away, because I was making a joke about it. I was like, look at all this white on white violence, right? Because, the one neighbor, she pushing snow on the other side of the street. I don't know why she did that. They all type of fuck yous and use a pussy and all this other shit. Man, that man went in his garage, got his gun and started blasting. Took them both out. Then went in the house and took himself out, right? And what's so funny is I was just like, yo, I'm like, jokes aside, I'm surprised. I'm like, this is what's going on in suburbia. And Cap he gave the best line ever. He was like, you got to understand. He's like, first of all, I know shit like this goes on in the white community. You know what I mean? Cause he up in Michigan, there was some white guy, he broke it down. He was like, oh yeah, you should see the type of bullshit that goes on in our white, those honky tonk bars that they got, right? He's like, you should see the bullshit that goes on. Motherfuckers pulling knives on each other, pulling pistols out on each other. He's like, it goes on in those rural bars that you're not invited to. It goes on. But he was like, see, and this was what Cap was saying. Cap was like, see, there's white people, and then there's the idea of white people. And seriously speaking, when it comes to street dudes, there's street dudes, and then there's the idea of street dudes. And a lot of black people get caught up in the idea of street dudes, because there's a lot of shit that we've seen over the years that street dudes do that's really off code. Way off code. And they get away with it. Now that's internal talk with the black community. I ain't talking to China Mac and the Asian community and everything. Because as you can see with China Mac, he's staying on code with his shit. He's on code. I didn't see any, granted it was internal, but I didn't see any rappers from LA or the Bay Area that were black that were flying out to New York and say, hey, we got to talk about, this sister getting beat up in the liquor store. You know what I'm saying? Nobody was talking about that. And yes, we know our sisters can be sassy and they can mouth off and everything else like that. But see, when you compare and contrast it to, what China Mac is doing, it's not a good look. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a good look when the sister gets beat up, and the first thing that a lot of black men say is, oh, well, she was mouthing off. Which she might have been. It's very common. And sisters should take note of that. Okay? That's not cool, because Asian women don't have a reputation of doing that. Even if there was some internal shit going on with Asian men and domestic violence in Asian men. Y'all remember when that girl at Yale University got decapitated? Y'all remember that? She got decapitated by her boyfriend. You know what I mean? So there's some foul stuff that goes on in the Asian community. It's not discussed. It's just like everybody forgets that the West Virginia, Virginia Tech mass shooter was Asian. Everybody seems to forget that. You see, so there's stuff that goes on, but the certain reputations stick to certain groups and don't stick to other groups, right? Even if you do see some sort of some parody or whatever, but yeah, it's just not a good look when you got China Mac up there talking about, and this could be our grandmothers and our mothers, and that's not a good look. He's on code. Black men are off code. You see. And a lot of folks, they don't think this deep about, these sort of racial politics or group politics. You know what I mean? But hey, I think the black community and the Asian community, I think we should have an exchange. We'll take some of your corporate ingenuity in exchange for some of our hyper masculinity. What do you say? Right? Right? That would be the exchange, because clearly, again, in China, you see, them, the government see Zifu addressing, saying that the issue is that their men are weak, timid, and feckless. I'm like, ooh, not good, right? They're like, yeah, we got all that. We got Shenzhen, and we making products. We doing this, we doing that. We're heading into the future. Yeah, we got all that. We sending missions to the dark side of the moon. Yeah, we got all that. But god damn, are we some pocket protecting bitch asses? Like, we gotta fix that. And in black men, it's the opposite. It's hyper masculinity for days, big dicks and swag, charisma, all that shit. But you got any businesses? Nope. You got any satellites in space? Nope. You know, you got any aircraft carriers? Nope. Like, you got any nuclear reactors? Nope. Like, I'm like, god damn. You know, I'm telling you, if there was tribal space programs, black people would be stuck on Earth. Everybody else would be claiming celestial bodies. You know what I mean? So maybe Earth will become a black planet and whatnot, because they most certainly wouldn't want to take our asses with them. You know, but granted, I got to acknowledge, yes, we have a different history. Asians came here and they maintained their language and their culture and everything, you know, that made them them. That's why they have Chinatowns. You know what I'm saying? Where us, you know, we came out of slavery and we got our language stripped from us, our culture stripped from us, our hierarchy stripped from us. Hence the people, some women who like to say that slavery was the great equalizer between the genders. So our gender roles and gender dynamics are all screwed up, on top of all the discrimination and incarceration and the government policies that were specifically targeted against black people to keep black people down. You see, Asians for a long time, they've been real quiet. Again, I'll highlight another point. You know, where's China Mac talking about Richard Aoki? What about Richard Aoki? Oh, if you don't know who Richard Aoki is, go look Richard Aoki up, because he was an FBI informant who the FBI used to arm the Black Panthers to basically incite violence between the police and the Black Panthers to shift public opinion against who? The Black Panthers. And that happened out there where? In Oakland. That happened out there in California. You see, so again, you know, the Asian community has not always been, you know, the friend, you know, of black people. You know, it's you know, it is what it is. We know the history. You know, we know the realities. We know the tensions. I don't know why everybody's sitting around, you know, faking, you know, or black people foolishly sitting around thinking that Asians are going to side with them against the system of white supremacy. You know, that's not going to happen. You know, so anyway, you know, Asians got their problems and they see it as their problems that they're going to address. And black people got their problems that black people need to see as they need to address, because ain't nobody else going to come through and help us address our problems, even if those problems spill out of the black community and onto other communities. At the end of the day, they're going to chalk it up to that's just how they are, and we have to protect and defend ourselves against them because they're evil, you know, like some bullshit like that. I mean, just totally tossing out the whole historical context of race in America. But anyway, I am done with making my video. That's my video. SWP out.
producer. Eastern Side Beats, the producer.